690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. All those ways are to say that we are out there in these manners in order to facilitate the conversation. If you want to get real technical about it, we want to make sure that we're available to whoever wants to join in or even just tune in, sit back, relax. If you find this kind of thing relaxing, I get invigorated by it. So again, not finding it relaxing isn't necessarily a bad thing, but such is the turn of phrase here. But if you want to comment, those are some of the better places to do so throughout the show. A few people tuning in, chiming in here already here today. But really, we'll also open up those phone lines a little bit later. A few things top of mind here today. A little bit more detail coming out, at least from the New Mexico side of things, on expectations for that impending recreational marijuana. Apparently, there are some grow operations going on in the Las Cruces area, even though that raises technical, legal questions for me about you can't go to the rest of the state, but by the by, it's Las Cruces City Council meeting on that. Also, on the Texas side of things, Governor Greg Abbott doubling down on the major growth industry he's pushing for in the energy sector here within the Lone Star State, and also just scams seemingly kicked up to the next level, just kick it up a notch. What you might need to know as we are, well, increasingly being targeted by things. I've gotten some that I just had to laugh at recently myself personally. Plus, our interview today going to be with Bill Lyons of Lyons HR, talking about, well, a couple of factors involved with what we are seeing within the labor sector, employment, just retention in general, both in the commenting on the no one wants to work or the great resignation, as it's been called as well, along with burnout and just how to deal with that going forward here. So let's dive right in with some of this here. Again, New Mexico from our news partners over at KFOX 14, a discussion going on earlier this week with Las Cruces city leaders and police discuss marijuana use laws. There are still some things being shaped on the local level, but you got to remember that in the state, the whole 2 to 4 ounces level going to be more or less permissible, 2 ounces outside of the home, and not strict restrictions on inside the home, but amount on plants, yes, and certain concentrates and things. But the things that are being looked at within New Mexico and Las Cruces itself, so public possession of 2 to 8 ounces is a misdemeanor. So again, under 2 ounces on either side of the state line anyway will be less bad, I guess, in general, because in Texas, still very much illegal, but within El Paso, it is now that that citation instead of the, that's the cite and release policy that got put into place. But in New Mexico, over 8 ounces possession is still a felony, and underage possession, still a penalty. Selling to minors, penalty. Driving under the influence against the law, though, there are some technicalities therein that we've gone over more than a little bit here. But on the Texas side of things, again, Governor Greg Abbott giving a keynote address with a roundtable on the energy sector, oil and gas jobs in Odessa. That, of course, right in our backyard. Might technically, on a good day, be within our broadcast area. Not sure about those weather conditions today. I hope whatever you had that you wanted to keep in your backyard was bolted or strapped down, because you might not have it. Otherwise, you're just nasty right as I was coming into the studio, which is why I might look a little bit more disheveled than usual for those of you over on the stream. But specifically, Governor Abbott saying that, really just doubling down on all things oil and gas industry here in Texas, saying that, quote, Texas remains the energy capital of the world, and we're going to keep it that way. The people of the energy industry are the lifeblood of our economy, and Texas would not be the economic juggernaut we are today without their hard work, commitment to innovation, and dedication to serving their customers. We will always support the oil and gas industry, and I look forward to my continued partnership with the leaders of the energy sector as we keep Texas the best state in the nation. Okay, so nothing terrifically surprising from this or any other part of his remarks here, but again, just seeing the course of how things are probably going to continue to progress. I mean, he has been making statements or retweeting other people's statements anyway, along the lines of Midland, not Moscow, when it comes to that bit of a kerfuffle over energy supplies, though that has seemingly died down a bit and really just focusing more when it comes to the overseas focus, I guess I should say, because still obviously very focused on the Texas production of things. And I fully expect that to continue. This is probably more than a little bit why there's going to be, well, those runoffs. We've got a couple local ones, but I kind of have to apologize to y'all because I missed something in the runoffs, that there was a pretty wild race for the Texas Railroad Commissioner. If it's not a agency you've dealt with before, it's easily overlooked here. But again, it's let's just say it involves pasties and campaign advertisements here, because we had the chair of the Texas Railroad Commission did not win the 50%, going to be facing off against oil and gas attorney Sarah Stogner in May, and Stogner, if I'm saying that right, and of course the incumbent Wayne Christian, on the job for a while now. One of the major reasons that Sarah Stogner, besides her platform, was her, shall we say, assets. I'm not going to play the clip over on here because I don't want to get our feed banned, but let's just say that Stogner posed mostly disrobed on top of an oil pump or a oil well pump. Not exactly sure where that was, but kind of immaterial, and posted in a short form video content, aka Instagram Reels, and on TikTok, etc., and generated a lot of interest with it. Kind of gloated about it actually afterwards, talking about how that she beat an incumbent who spent some odd $700,000 on his campaign, or not beat, forced into a runoff when she spent $5 on pasties. So again, I gotta apologize to you all because I'd like to think I'm usually up on some of the wild stuff with our state level politics, but that one I missed it during the election. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting race to keep a focus on, because of course that one's going to the runoff. So it will be on the statewide Republican runoff ballot if you did vote on that side of things. And given the increased importance and focus on the oil and gas sector, so again, you might be thinking, why are we talking in relation to this when the name of the organization is the Texas Railroad Commission? Essentially, without getting too deep into the history, though that could potentially be an interesting other program here, separate issue, the Texas Railroad Commission, in short, was the model used for the construction of OPEC. And no, that is not an exaggeration. Literally, one of the first modern executive and heads of the Texas Railroad Commissions ended up being hired by the nascent OPEC in order to help them better structure their cartel. Like literally, that's not even oh man, did you know about this? It's a secret history. Like that's open. That's just how it happened. So given the focus on this, the Texas Railroad Commission has quite a lot of power over the oil and gas industry and regulation therein in the state. Now, the regulation side is maybe not as much as some might like, though I will point out that Abbott's remarks that he gave in Odessa here at Champion X was a commitment to developing safer and more clean production methods for their customers and further strategies to increase production and create more jobs. I think it would be a fair expectation to say that the focus will probably be on the latter half of that than the first half, as we have RJ. Yeah, I know. I was a little bit, my jaw dropped, not quite to the floor, but mostly I was mad at myself that I can't believe I missed this as we were closer to the election, because yeah, that's the kind of wild stuff you'd expect me to bring up, isn't it? Anyway, Calvin Williams also tuning in over here, and John Brazelton chiming in. All the El Paso law enforcement community has to do is having an employee recording the license plates at each marijuana sales facility and perform a traffic stop in Texas here. And John Brazelton pointing out, yeah, and she ran as a Republican, and again is making the runoff as a Republican. Yeah. I think she also made some other comments. You can go find her over for yourself on her prolific social media. Again, Sarah Stogner, SarahStogner, in that upcoming May runoff here. But actually, on your comments on doing enforcement about that might not actually be possible for Texas authorities. There was a circumstance when an enforcement action was going on in New Mexico. They were essentially doing a guy at the previous stop sign would be just a officer, plain clothes with a camera, noticing people, driving unsafe, blowing through the stop sign, that kind of a thing, and then relaying that to officers down the street who would then pull them over. And then the video serves that evidence. I talked with the El Paso Police Department there in previous years, and they're saying that is not an enforcement avenue available to them. So an interesting consideration, but don't know if it'll totally be possible, but maybe other jurisdictions anyway. But so, a lot to get into here and a lot more that we will do as Flaca Jimenez also drops a like. We got to take that next break right now. Coming out of the break, we'll get into our interview today. Again, going to be talking with Bill Lyons of Lyons HR about, just the employment situation, what we're looking at, what factors businesses can control, and just what are the overall shifts that we may be seeing within the labor pool and employment in general in this country. So, again, going to take that first break right now. A lot of comments coming in. Stirred up the pot a little bit here. Again, I can't believe I missed that when it came to the Railroad Commissioner race. Usually one of those kind of important but sleepy elections. Anyway, we'll get into more of that here. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere. Even if your, international travel plans may be on hold for the moment, there are still plenty of ways you can enjoy those international flavors without even having to leave your home, because Enhanced Flavors is your local source of over 40 quality flavored olive oils, balsamic vinegars, and extra virgin olive oils. They're olive oils imported from Tunisia, Italy, Greece, and Spain, and they've got some great flavored varieties. I really like some of their a chili oil flavored virgin olive oils, because they taste great and they add they really help spice up your life here. But of course, all of their balsamic vinegars imported straight from the Modena province of Italy, as is required to call it such a thing here. So you want to find them out. They are in the community. They still are going to that Upper Valley Farmers Market Sundays. They'll be here this coming Sunday as well. So stop by, say hi, say that you heard about them on the radio here, and let them know that, you want to try some of those great samples that they will have available for you. Plus, even in the meantime, you can find them online at enhancedflavors.com. That's enhanced with a D, flavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Afternoon rush hour starting to heat up in El Paso. Right now, Mesa Street northbound, 8-minute delays from the I-10 to Desert Boulevard. Got a crash on Desert Boulevard northbound at Trans Mountain. It's blocking the right lane. Loop 375 westbound at Fonseca. Watch for a stalled vehicle blocking the left shoulder. Got a crash on Artcraft and West Side Drive that's slowing traffic. Take Borderland Road as a way around it. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
What if I told you that a lawyer who was a tone-deaf, bad poet ended up writing our national anthem? Well, to hear this story, be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
If you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid, then El Paso Health Plus Medicare Advantage Plan offers great supplemental benefits designed specifically for El Pasoans, such as $3,500 a year in dental benefits, $300 in vision, and a quarterly OTC card with $250 to spend on health and wellness products. Plus, generous benefits for hearing, podiatry, home-delivered meals, and so much more. Plus, our new Get Fit benefit to keep you active and social, as well as our new Healthy Eats program. At El Paso Health Plus, we go the extra mile for our members because this is our home, and our local knowledgeable staff is here to help you get more benefits, more services, more from your health plan. If you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid, call us 833-742-3125 or visit ephmedicare.com. El Paso Health Plus, your local Medicare Advantage plan.
The podcast, What's Your Problem, dives deep into new technology and the challenges facing people at the top of their field. On each episode, Jacob Goldstein, former co-host of NPR's Planet Money, speaks with the entrepreneurs and engineers creating innovations in medicine, artificial intelligence, and more.
We didn't have a particular technology. We didn't have a business model. We didn't have a way of making money. It was a great way to start a company. I highly recommend it.
Listen to What's Your Problem on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Economists are warning that sanctions against Russia could trigger devastating inflation, worse than the current 40-year highs. Hi, this is Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to protect your savings right now with a gold IRA through Birch Gold, the only company I trust for gold. Just text the word SECURE to 989898 to get a free info kit on how to protect your savings with gold. So text the word secure to 989898.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Joining me now, we have Bill Lyons, owner of Lyons HR. Thank you very much for joining us today, and also an author.
Thank you, Andrew. It's good to be with you.
So we have been talking more than a little bit, and I feel like most people are these days, about shortages of a variety of different significances and types. I mean, it touches every aspect of life, I feel like, these days. But employment and employees, the labor force in general, is a common one and a constant one. Even though myself over this weekend got told by someone who was otherwise doing an admirable job at the restaurant I happened to be at that welcome to the new service sector. And that, even though not everyone works in restaurants, that is a common situation. It feels like we're looking at about people and positions just kind of going unfilled or underfilled. And so that's something that you all have both written about and been talking about lately. So from your position, with an HR firm as the CEO of Lyons HR, what are some of the issues that in general we're looking at when it comes to talent, hiring, staffing, and those kind of issues at this point here in 2022?
Well, without a doubt, we're experiencing the most difficult period of employment that we've had in 40 years. I mean, what's going on in the labor market is really unprecedented with the number of people who are leaving their job. You've heard about the great resignation. That is a very real phenomenon that's going on in this country. The year 2021, the country had 48 million people leave their jobs. Some of these people changed into other jobs. Some of these people left the workforce. But when you take an overall labor force of 162 million people, 48 million people changing jobs, that's a 30% turnover rate, which is something that this country has never really experienced before. And so there are a number of things going on. I think obviously the COVID impact cannot be overstated. And unfortunately, I know everybody is tired of hearing COVID is the explanation or reason for why things are difficult, but there really is a strong influence affected by what we've all experienced. Some people are reluctant to come back to the workforce for fear. Some people are choosing this as an opportunity to pursue a new career. But most of the people of that 48 million are just simply taking advantage of what's going on in the marketplace, and that is basically supply and demand economics. Whenever there's a shortage of workers, there's going to be an increase in rates, and so competitors are somewhat cannibalizing one another's workforce. They're saying, okay, if I can't get somebody to come here and work for $75,000, I'm going to pay them $85,000 or $90,000 and get them to move. And people who are not necessarily engaged or really connected to the mission of the company they work for are very vulnerable to being picked off by a competitor and lured away with more money. And so what's going on in the labor force right now is creating upward pressure on employers just to pay more and to create a different work experience for employees.
It kind of seems almost like a chicken and an egg problem once you get past the COVID question, of course, of is it that there are people not wanting to work because it's not worth their while, and therefore the people that are remaining there are able to be a bit more choosy with how they're doing it, or that some of the positions that are still being offered. I mean, you're talking about some very high level jobs there, but even down within, again, the service sector, I mean, we've still got, here in Texas, a minimum wage for servers rates at about $2 and change plus tips, but still people kind of maybe reevaluating that. What do you see as the inciting point here? Once again, you got to get past the question of COVID here. Is this something where it's been maybe just some friction in the market that is now really loosening because of the circumstances we're in, or do you see other factors at play here?
no doubt that the retail and hospitality industry have been the most affected, by what's happened in COVID. But the COVID created, as we've all been hearing about in the news, supply chain disruptions. There's a pent-up demand in this country for goods and services because of a 1.5 or 2 year hibernation period, if you will, where people were really not able to live their lives. And so now that this pent-up demand has been unleashed, there's just not enough there's not enough supply, and the disruption in the supply chains is very well documented. So the supply chain has definitely affected the retail industry. You see empty store shelves when you go to the grocery store. You see you go into restaurants and you see one server trying to take care of half of a restaurant. I've experienced that personally. And so some of the things that we've experienced or have been used to in the past have clearly been impacted by COVID. So I think that the marketplace, particularly the labor market, is in a period of transition. We're going from the pre-COVID to the post-COVID reality, and we just haven't landed yet. We don't know exactly where that's going to settle in. We know that COVID has put upward pressure on wages across the board, not just in hospitality and in retail and in the restaurant sector, but among professional classes, manufacturing, distribution. Every single sector of our economy has been impacted by it. And so with a shortage of labor, there is going to be natural upward pressure on wages. If you look at the number of job openings there are in this country, there are about 11.3 million openings right now, with about 6.5 million or so people drawing unemployment. So you're talking about a 4.5 to 5 million worker gap between the number of jobs that are open and the number of people who are unemployed in so-called the labor market. And so what's happening is employers are having to become much more creative in the way they go about soliciting and recruiting employees. They're picking off the employees of their competitors, and they're creating incentives and also internal training programs. So one of the first things any employee is going to do if they're considering working for a company is they're going to go to their website, they're going to go to their social media presence, and they're going to see what kind of a company is this? Is this a place that I would really like to work? And so the whole employee experience and the whole employer branding is something that's really taking root in our economy right now, because employers are quite aware of the fact that there's a shortage of labor out there, a 40-year high in terms of shortages in employees that are available. And so they're having to be more and more creative. And so they're working on trying to improve the culture. If you think about what it takes to hire somebody, you can lure somebody to a company with a higher salary, but you're not going to be able to keep them there unless the culture there is a good fit for them. And so, creating an employer brand, creating an exciting, website that shows that, hey, we're current. One of the things that I see with some of our clients that we've worked with in the past, that you go to their website and their current events has, that tab has something on there that's 5 years old or something that is no longer really timely. So employers need to be aware of the fact that their website needs to be kind of a working, breathing, living space where, because it does communicate the type of employer that you're going to be. Social media is the same thing. You have companies now that are specializing in digital marketing to make certain that a company's online presence communicates the kind of culture that the company is really trying to put out there.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Bill Lyons, CEO of Lyons HR. If you want to find anything more about them, lyonshr.com. That's LYONSHR.com. And also Forbes book author of We Are HR, the Business Owner's Definitive Guide to Professional Employer Organizations. So one of those concepts that come along with this, I feel like out of the previous labor market, if it can be called as such, or the one we were in prior to the pandemic, there was a lot of, well, we can just hire more people. We can always get someone else in the door here. And maybe a lack of consideration of the hiring process and the costs that go into it. I mean, it's often said that human capital is the most important capital that a business can consider, but it seemed like in a lot of ways, and at least a lot of, particularly service sector and, retail sector, that wasn't really considered. And now it seems like, well, maybe it's starting to be maybe in a more actual proactive way like you're describing.
It is. Well, the Society of Human Resource Management estimates that the cost of a single turnover is anywhere from 6 to 9 months the salary of that person. Now, we talk a lot about hospitality and the restaurant sector and the service sector, and for years, I think the cost of turnover has been something that they've learned to build their model around. That's something they learn to live with. The cost of turnover is X, and so that we're going to factor that into our business model. I think that is really changing now because, with the cost of turnover being as high, I refer to turnover as the punishment that a company has to endure for not having a good HR strategy, and it can really be one of the highest costs that a company incurs, and in many cases it is self-inflicted. When you're trying to hire in a competitive market, obviously step number one, you have to have a competitive salary and benefits program to even get good candidates to even consider your company to come work for. But it's one thing to attract them, the other is to retain them, and retaining them has everything to do with the kind of culture that you create and the kind of culture that you communicate through all the means that there are to communicate it, namely your website and your social media presence and other ways. One of the things that we really encourage is our existing employees, participating in helping us recruit new talent. If companies are having a difficult time getting employees to come work there, one of two things is happening. Either you don't have a very good or very competitive starting salary, or you don't have a good reputation as an employer. So one of the strongest things a company can do is have a career page on their website, and on that career page have existing employees give testimonials about what a great place you are to work and what an innovative company you are. Now, if those things are not true today, then maybe that's a strategy that you want to employ to execute on over the coming, 12 to 18 months. This is not a problem that's going to be corrected in a month or two. This is a cycle that our economy is going through that's going to have to take, some time before we really, realize the full impact. But company culture is made up of a number of things, but obviously, a competitive salary and benefits is something that you have to go out and recruit. But the retention factor is what, I'm really referring to now. And that is when an employee has clarity of purpose, when an employee has a sense of fairness and equal opportunity, when an employee when an employer understands that there's a strong upward mobility for them. But the most important thing to me is a connection that employee feels to the company's vision, mission, and values. Okay, every business strategy should be built around those components. What is the vision? That's where we're going. What is the mission? That's what we're going to do. And the values are the behaviors that shape and govern the way we do business. Okay, when you're hiring people, you want to make certain that those people that you hire and bring into your organization share those values and understand the mission and the vision of the company, and not only understand it, but understand the contribution that they individually make to the overall goal of the company. And so when people start leaving and looking for other opportunities, if an employee is lured away by a small increase in pay, then it's obvious to me that they're disconnected from the company's mission and the values of that company. If they're connected on those things, a few dollars more is not going to lure them away.
Again, guest right now, Bill Lyons, CEO of Lyons HR, their site, lyonshr.com, LYONSHR.com. We got to take that next break right now. But coming out of the break, we'll talk more with Bill here about some more of these factors, the whole nobody wants to work phenomenon, or how it's been described anyway, and what are some of the realities and the burnout for those that are still there. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. The KFOX 14 weather team has issued a weather warning from 12 to 9 p.m. tonight for gusty winds and blowing dust. A low pressure system turning to our west apparently will move toward the borderland over the next few hours. The big wind maker arrived today with a high wind warning in effect from 10 to 9 as well for the Sacramento Mountains, the Otero Mesa, Hudspeth, and east northeast El Paso County for wind gusts up to 65 miles per hour. You should tie down any loose patio furniture and get ready for patchy blowing blowing dust during evening commute times. A blowing dust advisory will be in effect from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. for areas all across the borderland. And Texas Democrats will be uniting in El Paso for its party convention in 2024. Downtown has changed since the last party convention in El Paso. Michael Apodaca, the Democratic County Chair-elect for El Paso County, told the El Paso City Council members Tuesday that there were only 2 hotels in the city downtown at that time. Apodaca said 10 to 15,000 attendees are expected in 2024. I'm Miraca Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Some delays in your afternoon commute. Mesa Street northbound from the 10 to Desert Boulevard. You got 11-minute delays. North Desert Boulevard northbound at Trans Mountain. Still some slowing there from an earlier crash. George Dieter Drive southbound north of Rojas, a medical emergency. And Montana Avenue eastbound at Sioux. An injury accident there. Use Airway or Edgemere to get around it. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
In Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We remain with our blowing dust advisory as visibilities drop to less than a mile at times, and our wind advisory until 9 p.m. for both advisories in El Paso and in Las Cruces. These winds will begin to subside some as we get into the overnight, but will still remain gusty, and we'll see another windy day Wednesday as well. As for the rain, that should begin to taper off after the evening, and we should see a drier overnight.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
What if I told you that a lawyer who was a tone-deaf bad poet ended up writing our national anthem? Well, to hear this story, be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Beautiful, top-quality, long-lasting dental implants as low as $19.95 at 1995implants.com. The El Paso Dental Office, where implants are affordable. Other places charge $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, up to $6,000 per tooth. Please do not pay that much. Please do come to 1995implants.com, where our price is much lower, as low as $1,995 per tooth, including the implant, abutment, and crown, which many other places charge extra for. Plus, at 1995implants.com, we also offer a free consultation, free standard x-rays, and very convenient payment options. Now's the time to get rid of your cracked teeth, missing teeth, or loose, old, wobbly dentures and get the beautiful new smile that you want at a very affordable price. 1995implants.com. For more information, see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
This Easter, build a bigger basket. Boxed delivers bulk-sized candy, chocolate, and more festive faves right to your door. Hop over to iHeartRadio.com/boxed today and enter to win $1,500 for your holiday stock-up. Save 20% plus free shipping on your first order at Boxed, the better way to shop bulk.
Need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are easy to install and guaranteed to fit. And right now, save 45% off any order. Just use code RADIO at checkout. Blindster.com. This report is sponsored by Blindster.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Welcome back here to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is where we're at. Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk on most of those. Joined here again by Bill Lyons, CEO of Lyons HR. Thank you very much for joining us again today and sticking around.
Thank you, Andrew. I think this is a very compelling topic and one that's very relevant to our economy today.
Oh, absolutely, because it's one thing to not have the stuff, the supply chain issues we were talking a little bit about first segment, but if you can't even do what you need to with the stuff, whatever it be, goods, services, materials, etc., because you don't have the people available to do it. I mean, even with the talk that has happened for years about automation, there still is people in the loop here, and it takes them to be able to even do the inputs for that level of automation here. So a refrain that has been going around for a while now, even within certain members of our audience, has been the idea of nobody wants to work right now, pointing to certain factors such as, some of the stimulus checks that went out, or even some of the, unemployment, additional funding that was available primarily in, 2020 and a bit into 2021 in some places, but that never rang totally true to me. The way you were talking about it, being that's, well, people are reevaluating it. I mean, there's a number of people I know in my own life who have said, well, I'll do this job for now. And I think for a lot of people, the for now ended when the pandemic really started seeing the upheaval of, well, so much, but particularly in jobs and positions. And I mean, really, again, service sector and above, all of them saying that, well, if this can be so temporary in such a way because of the way that layoffs happen, that people saw positions evaporate, thinking like, okay, if I'm really, this is for now, what happens when this situation occurs? And maybe I should be looking at what I actually want to be doing instead, and just kind of total reevaluations about how their working life is going on.
Right. I do believe that there's something to the opinion that all of the stimulus money, extended unemployment benefits, all of the cash that was infused into the economy, without a doubt, in my opinion, I should say, impacted the labor participation rate. There were people who used that as an opportunity to reevaluate, am I in a job that fulfills me? Am I in a job that I really want to continue to do? Maybe I have a 4 to 6 month cushion here that will allow me to reevaluate, maybe go back to school, or do other things. And let's not forget the impact that closed schools around the country had on working parents that had to stay home and homeschool their children. We know that had an impact. So much of that is starting to loosen up now, and it's almost like we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, that we're about to emerge from this. But no doubt and I hate to use the word new normal because it's overused, but the new reality of what work looks like in America is forever changed. Companies are moving to permanent remote work. Companies are moving to hybrid work schedules. They're working to move into flex time in order to accommodate, this new reality. But when you go back to stress and burnout, you think about if you work in a department of 10 people and there was a certain production output that was expected of those 10 people, and now all of a sudden you're down to 6, and that same production output is required or maybe even enhanced, that's going to naturally generate stress on you. I think it was Boston University last year, 2021, conducted a survey of 500 C-level HR professionals at public companies around the country, asking them what their top priorities were for the year 2022, and 65% of them responded that overall employee wellness was their top priority. There are others, but that was one of the ones that really stood out to me. That's in line with what we're talking about here. Employees are experiencing stress in their lives, not just related to work, but also related to their personal lives and their overall living circumstances. And employers have to factor that into the equation now. In addition to the stress that's brought on by fewer people being expected to carry on the existing workload, or in some cases an enhanced workload, you have people that are stressed out in their personal lives, and they bring that stressed attitude to the workplace, and it also affects their productivity. And so I think employers are recognizing this. And so employee wellness, there are a number of initiatives around this idea of employee wellness that is being implemented across the country. One of the most popular ones are employee assistance programs, or EAPs. And these are things that go beyond your typical health insurance or 401k or paid time off, those kind of things, which are somewhat part of the traditional benefits package. These are things that help the employee's overall well-being, the psychology, if you will, of the employee. Because let's face it, everybody has issues in their lives. People go through financial difficulties, they go through health issues, they may go through a divorce, they may have a legal dispute going on in their lives. And these EAP programs are ideal for employees who are having issues in their personal lives to have a resource to be able to go out and get assistance, whether it's in financial planning or in interpersonal relationships within their families. These are the kind of things that outside the workplace create stress on employees that make them otherwise less productive when they come into the workforce. And so this is something that's being recognized in the workplace, and employers want to respond to that and say, we want to do more than just give you a good health plan and give you, adequate paid time off. We want to do something that's going to help you as an individual be more, well, if you will, in your personal life and also in your work life. One of the other things that's creating stress is this blurring of the line between work and home. So many people are now working remotely, and there's a certain work expectation. There's a work product that has to be produced there. And if you're working remotely, perhaps from home, and you want to take a break, there's this internal feeling of guilt, I think, that some remote workers have, that I need to be working, or I've got this deadline that I need to meet. And taking a little time off during the work day or even after hours, if that work is just a few feet away from you in the same living space that you're sharing with your family, there is stress that's created from that. Whereas the whole workplace, leave the office, go home, created a barrier between the work experience and the home experience. And so I think employers that are able to look at this whole work-life balance phenomenon that's going on right now, understanding that there's a whole new psychology associated with it, the separation of work and personal time, particularly for those remote workers that are working from home, and even the hybrid workers. I think there's the risk of this entering into it. It's something that can't be overstated. So I think HR professionals around the country are trying to figure this out right now. It is a transitional phase that we're going through right now to determine, how do we, meet the needs of our employees who are working remotely, those who are working in a hybrid configuration, or those who are actually coming to the office or to the workplace and doing their jobs here. That is a work in process at the moment. And so there's natural stress that's going to be created along with the uncertainty that surrounds these new work arrangements.
Finally here, I mean, we've talked a lot about, low-level jobs, service sector, all the way up to, six-figure positions here. For any companies that are finding themselves, or, employers anywhere in between or on the ends of that, I mean, it seems kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation, because either hiring can be difficult, the burnout then of those who are left here. So is there any kind of, at least beginning advice you give to anyone who's listening to this and wondering, okay, how do I even begin to navigate this right now to keep things moving without having to have this become potentially a stumbling block in their business?
All right. I think I mentioned earlier, utilizing your own existing workforce. Hopefully, if you have a strong culture within your company, you need to employ your existing employees to go out and help you spread the message that you are a great place to work. If you do not have a good culture, work on that first. That's obviously step number one, is to create an employer brand that makes your workplace a desirable place to be. The other thing I would say is, employers have traditionally created criteria that they use to hire by. Maybe there are educational requirements, minimum number of years of experience, and all these kind of things. And sometimes we create unnecessary barriers that disqualify otherwise qualified employees from applying for our jobs, because we put these criteria in the screening process that may or may not be timely or relevant any longer. I think when the circumstances were different and it was more of a employer's market, that is, there were plenty of candidates out there and the employer could be choosy and could take their time and be very selective about the candidate, then they might want to put things like, I want 5 to 7 years of experience and I want a college degree with a master's preferred, or some of these other kind of criteria that, again, disqualify people before you're even really considering them. And so I would challenge employers who are having a hard time finding them to take a look at the criteria that they are using to screen out applicants and really ask themselves the hard questions. Are these screening criteria still relevant?
Again, been joining us right now has been Bill Lyons, Forbes book author of We Are HR, the Business Owner's Definitive Guide to Professional Employer Organizations, and CEO of Lyons HR. Again, to find out more information about them and that work, lyonshr.com. That's LYONSHR.com. So, Bill, thank you very much for speaking with us today about some of these changes, challenges, opportunities potentially, but just things to consider in this current employee and employer relationship and market we have here today.
It is. Thank you so much, Andrew. It's great to be with you today.
Absolutely here. All right, do it for that next break. Coming back out of this break, we'll get to more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
all day. News Radio 690.
Gateway Boulevard eastbound at Zaragoza. A crash there is blocking the Zaragoza on-ramp. Expect delays from that crash. Loop 375 southbound at Montana Avenue. Disabled vehicle blocking the left shoulder. An injury accident. Montana eastbound at Sioux. Take Airway Boulevard as an alternate. George Dieter Drive southbound north of Rojas. A medical emergency slowing traffic there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
What if I told you that a lawyer who was a tone-deaf bad poet ended up writing our national anthem? Well, to hear this story, be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
As a marketer, you want to reach everyone, adults, teens, millennials, but it's not like these groups all hang out in the same place, right? Actually wrong. They're all right here, listening to radio commercials just like this one. Radio ads connect with 93% of Americans every week. That's more than Google, more than Facebook, more than TV. In fact, radio reaches 20% more millennials than TV. Want more of the people you want to talk to all in one place? Visit iHeartAdvertising.com and get AM/FM working for you. That's iHeartAdvertising.com. Hey, spring is here, and the warmer weather means you've got a lot more going on. Don't let COVID get in the way of any of it. COVID vaccines offer the strongest possible protection now and from long-term side effects in the future. Protect yourself and your plans. We can do this. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. That's vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
The True Crime Podcast, What Happened to Sandy Beale, investigates the alarming death of a young woman who dreamed of a career in law enforcement. Journalist Melissa Jeltsin untangles the mystery at the heart of the investigation, revealing a troubling pattern by officials close to the case.
I didn't take any of that crap because I could tell that they were hiding something.
Listen to What Happened to Sandy Beale on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Are you covered by Medicare and Medicaid? Well, El Paso Health Plus is the plan for you. As a local Medicare Advantage plan, we can offer our members more. Call us at 833-742-3125 or EPHmedicare.com. El Paso Health Plus.
Your happiest spring starts at Lowe's. Get a bag of premium mulch at the everyday low price of $3.68. Lowe's, home to any possibility. Selection varies by location while supplies last. Valid 3/24 through 3/30. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Short timing it here with this last segment of the hour, but don't worry, we'll of course be back next hour with more of the show here. And so we'll go ahead and open up those phone lines. The number to call in for that, if you want to get ahead on the line here, 915-544-5876. 915-544-KTSM. A lot of comments coming in on this and the other things we're discussing here. A lot of the conversations going on about the employment situation here. Some of the things going on. Tommy Gunnar over on the YouTube saying seems about right with some of the conversation here. RJ saying a little bit earlier, employees are an investment and you hate to lose money training to hire a replacement. I mean, that's a consideration that I think has been overlooked for a while. I mean, I've worked a couple of places myself where you felt less like an employee and a person and a value of yourself as a cattle call, a number to be replaced if need be, was just seemed ludicrous, at the very least for small businesses. You know, some of the predominant industries in our area, it can't be that way. Because, I mean, the simple hiring of a major corporation that has thousands of people, I can see that almost getting that way. But when you're dealing with it on the individual level, and like where one hiring and one difference can really change how your business is working, it's got to be more of a concerted effort, particularly in this day and age here. John Browson also chiming on that. Blanca Jimenez saying a tried and true business principle is to take good care of the employees and they in turn will take good care of the customers. This unfortunately doesn't seem to be practiced much. Again, it does, in the previous better part of a generation, it kind of feels like that was just not the case. And then unless you start getting into those kind of six-figure jobs, is it then considered about talent development, when really, by my reckoning, it should be in place just about everywhere because of how much goes into it in developing it, hiring. I mean, it's not a free process, and yet a lot of the times it seems to be credited as much. But again, thanks to our guest from this hour, Bill Lyons with Lyons HR here, and some more conversation on other topics here, such as inflation, new normal here. RJ saying new normal is China, India, and Russia, talking about leaving the petrodollar and using different currencies could trigger a great recession, depression, or dollar crash. But John Brazelton further pointing out that the dollar has worth a lot of its value over time here. So we'll have to get into that and more here. Kelvin Williams also saying Democrats playing the monkey paw game. We'll have to get into that and a whole lot more after this top of the hour news break here. We'll talk more about some of our subjects and those scams that have been definitely creeping around our area. I've gotten a couple of them here. Don't think I've fallen for one yet, but well, if someone shows up with a similar sounding name like Schmandrew Schmolk, next time you'll know something happened here. But anyway, taking that break, back after this break and the top of the hour news. Again, we got that phone line open now, and we'll start those calls starting next hour, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Gateway Boulevard eastbound at Zaragoza. A crash there is blocking the Zaragoza on-ramp. Expect delays from that crash. Loop 375 southbound at Montana Avenue. Disabled vehicle blocking the left shoulder. An injury accident. Montana eastbound at Sioux. Take Airway Boulevard as an alternate. George Dieter Drive southbound north of Rojas. A medical emergency slowing traffic there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hey, you. Ever wanted to learn a language like French or Spanish or even Norwegian, but thought it'd be too difficult or time-consuming? Then try Babbel. Quick 10-minute lessons.
Siesta.
Fábula. Games, podcasts, even live online classes with a real teacher.
Hola, clase.
In no time, chatting about real-life topics will feel, well, effortless. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
KTSM AM El Paso is News Radio 690, an iHeart radio station.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese.
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The White House is happy about FDA approval of a second booster shot for those over 50 years of age. Communications Director Kate Bedingfield called it a good thing. She said there's enough supply in the pipeline to cover this round of boosters. Florida is joining 20 other states in a lawsuit over the federal mask mandate on public transportation. Lisa Taylor reports.
Republican Governor Ron DeSantis announced State Attorney General Ashley Moody will head up the lawsuit. Both officials say the mandate also goes against Florida state law that bans requiring masking. The lawsuit contends the rule is unconstitutional because the CDC is violating the 10th Amendment and Commerce Clause.
President Biden will not grant executive privilege to shield Jared Kushner from congressional testimony this week. White House Communications Director Kate Bedingfield made that clear while speaking to reporters. The committee investigating last year's attack on the Capitol will interview Kushner virtually on Thursday. Auto, tech, and travel stocks are seeing some of today's biggest gains. Ford and GM are each up by at least 4.5%, while American Airlines saw a gain of 5%. President Biden is sending a $5.8 trillion budget request to Congress. Missouri Republican Congressman Jason Smith is no fan of it.
Everything that is proposed within the $73 trillion spending spree only makes every crisis worse.
It calls for higher taxes on the wealthiest Americans while lowering federal deficits by passing bills to ease costs for families on childcare, healthcare, and energy. Comedy heavyweights are weighing in on the slap heard around the world. Actor and comedian Jim Carrey believes Will Smith should have been arrested and should face far greater consequences after slapping Chris Rock. In a scathing interview with Gayle King, Carrey went on to say he was sickened by the entire situation. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Unvaccinated fired municipal workers are calling on New York City Mayor Eric Adams to give them their jobs back. Scott Pringle has more.
Unvaccinated workers, elected officials, and union leaders gathered in Queens to call on Mayor Eric Adams to lift the coronavirus vaccine mandate for all workers. Firefighter Maurice Wiggin was fired in February for refusing to get the shot. He wants his job back, and he's not happy Mayor Adams just lifted the mandate for pro athletes and performers.
What makes our craft less valuable than entertainers? Do we not deserve the same dignity and decency as our entertainers?
The mayor mainly cites economic reasons for exempting pro athletes and performers from the mandate.
Media measurement giant Nielsen is agreeing to sell the company in a $16 billion deal. After holding out for a higher price, Nielsen said it would be acquired by a private equity group led by Evergreen Coast Capital and Brookfield Business Partners. The all-cash deal equates to $28 per share. The deal still needs to be approved by Nielsen shareholders, and some other conditions must also be met. A popular tourist attraction in the city of San Diego is in trouble for not making its lease payments.
The city of San Diego offered organizations operating on city-owned land a payment plan so they could stay current on their leases despite the economic impact of the pandemic. The San Diego Union Tribune reports SeaWorld is the only lessee in default, owing about $10 million. SeaWorld argued it didn't need to make the payments because the park was not allowed to operate due to health orders, adding it still had operating expenses, including care for marine life. I'm Eddie McCoven.
A young girl in Pennsylvania is being recognized for her vocal talent. Recently, Guinness World Records named Victory Brinker as the world's youngest professional opera singer. Brinker is 10 years old. However, in 2019, she performed at the Pittsburgh Public Theater's Lights and Legends show as a professional 8 times. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
This report is sponsored by Blindster. Need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are easy to install and guaranteed to fit. And right now, save 45% off any order. Just use code RADIO at checkout. Blindster.com.
Hi, Phil Swift here. When that next storm is barreling down, get prepared with the Flex Seal family of products. Floods can destroy your home. Push Flex base deep into cracks and holes to help prevent flooding. Seal doors and windows, patch leaky roofs and downspouts. Remember, when that storm is coming your way, keep your family safe and dry. Be prepared with the Flex Seal family of products. Available at FlexSealProducts.com and fine retailers.
All right, class. Let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all of these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow, awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you.
It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for tuning in here to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. Either of those names, most of those places, Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk, you'll be able to find us and chime in as you can throughout the program here. And a lot of comments coming in right now and throughout. RJ, Calvin Williams, Maria Coleman, John Brazelton, John Hertz, Flaco Jimenez, among others here. Tommy Gunnar, Ed Clore, and more a little bit earlier. James Ratcliffe showing, that link you were talking about here. This is why it pays. If you can do so safely. If you're on the road right now, do not be watching. Be listening. That's the line we'll keep here. But if you can, the conversation takes on its own tone and tenor, and people can post the supporting documents there, as James Ratcliffe did, as we talked about at the top of the last hour, of that interesting Texas Railroad Commissioner runoff race. Yeah, that's again, you got to look at it for yourself, because it involves a slim loss of, not exactly loss, but failure to beat the 50% threshold to avoid a runoff, and the opponent that, is having posed with pasties there. And I got to go back to it here, because Ed Clore made the interesting comment of the day. I'm changing my name to Oil Pump Jack. If you don't get it, again, just look up the opponents here. And the Texas Tribune had some pretty good coverage here of Wayne Christian, the incumbent Texas Railroad Commissioner, and Sarah Stogner, the one who was going to be facing off in the runoff here, 47 and change percent to 15% respectively. But again, interesting is a good way I'm going to choose to define this race here. Yeah. And also James Ratcliffe on that note as well. Interesting note that Jay Kleberg, who ran for congressional and Senate seats for El Paso as a Republican, is running as a Democrat for land commissioner. I mean, we've seen a little bit, more than a little bit of that in this race here. Recall, it's not exactly been consistent, I guess would be the right phrase for it. In any case, there's been a little bit of party changing, even if the people who have made the decision haven't seemed to have the best stability of campaigns. We interviewed at least one of them for lieutenant governor, running as a Democrat, having previously been credited with getting George W. Bush in office. I mean, the weirdness abounds here, and we'll keep talking about it as we do. But okay, I was getting to it here. We also have those phone lines open. If you're wanting to call in, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. RJ letting us know he's changing his vote there based on how these races are working out here. But the other thing that I wanted to mention here, again, thanks to our guest from last hour, Bill Lyons of Lyons HR and Forbes Books author, but the scams that have been coming about email out from our company here. Our company does a little bit of those test things, did you fall for it, and a report back, and there's always someone that does. Unfortunately, if I see anything that looks suspicious, and it's not immediately something I was expecting, I'll mark it, send it to our IT and move on. But Maria Coleman saying, received a text scam just today stating that your bank account has been debited for $450, appears to be linked to a cryptocurrency scam. Please check your bank account for fraudulent activity. The most basic advice to be followed there is, if it looks suspicious, don't click anything within it, be it a text, be it a phone call asking for information. Don't provide it, not click in this case, or an email that's please log in, and you weren't expecting that to check messages or something. That's the majority of what I've gotten. But the one that I've heard about lately, so two-factor authentication, to get a little techie here, has been put forth as the idea of a solution to a lot of all this, but I figured it was only a matter of time before some kind of exploit would be found with that. A previous one was more social engineering than a true hack, and this one is still kind of in the same Michael Robert Tipton asking, how old do you have to be or what rock do I live under to fall for those email scams? I mean, I get a lot of them here, but actually the factor is that the idea that only a very small portion is going to fall for it seems to be kind of built into the idea. I mean, the infamous Nigerian prince scams and all of that for years. You might think, what kind of fool is going to fall for this? And literally, it's the fools that are being targeted by it. Essentially, the phrase that I like when describing that is you're self-selecting as a not very intelligent person if you are responding and providing information to it. And that's exactly who they want responding to here. I mean, it's exactly what they want. But so on the two-factor authentication was been proffered as a solution to this, that as long as you have your device or whatever else auxiliary you're using to sign in, they can't just with your password log in. But and previously, the kind of social engineering way around that was I'd seen people saying, on like a Facebook Marketplace post or previously Craigslist, that kind of thing, being like, okay, yeah, I want to buy this thing and I'll be happy to send you the money. But hey, I'm just going to need to send you a code to prove that you're real. And a code will then be sent to you. And then if you respond to it, bad things happen, because what's happened on the back end is that someone has managed to, there's a lot of ways to do it on the internet, and not some of them not even necessarily entirely your fault. If you're reusing passwords, it's maybe a little bit more your fault. Do different passwords is another good thing out there, to a bit of advice to consider. But they will send you this code, and it's essentially that two-factor authentication being sent to you. And by then giving them that code, they are then able to log in and do whatever they want here. The new way that's gotten across my desk here today, that if they have managed to get your, through phishing or other methods, get your login information, but still can't do that two-factor authentication, they might just spam it like constantly. I mean, I'm hearing about things about it being sent for like dozens of times, in that, and essentially with the expectation that you might think like, okay, fine, approve. If it keeps happening, I must be doing something wrong, and then they've got access. If it's not like I then enter the code kind of situation. So that more than a little bit going on out there. And also I've gotten, I got called from the Social Security Administration a little bit earlier this week, guys. Yeah, it was a fascinating call coming from a Wisconsin area code with the thickest subcontinental Asian Indian accent that I have ever heard. And before they even really got into the pitch, I couldn't help but just laugh. And I was like, okay, my jig is up. I can't even play with this. So I just hung up. But I mean, it is absolutely going on out there. So be very careful out there. Again, if it smells fishy, trust your gut and trust your nose, because they keep going on out there. Plus, I mean, the amount of scams that are going on beyond even just the cybersphere, there are still some small business like funding loans scams going on out there, still things around the lines of get us gift cards. I mean, that's a very common one, to the point where any gift card major retailer has a sign now saying no entity should be asking you to give you gift cards to them in order to pay whatever. Just not how it works. So another good one to keep in mind. Know someone that unfortunately happened to a loved one of theirs, and a lot of money was lost. So it does happen. So, I mean, as much as there may be a little bit of levity talking about the situations we're dealing with here, it absolutely can impact people's lives. So, I mean, there's a little bit of levity with a lot of serious undertones going on with it here. So just be careful. If it looks too good to be true, often is. I had almost a scam back in the day when I was still apartment hunting of, great price. Oh, they're going to send us the keys in the mail. And the text of the email was just weird. It almost seemed like old English. And we contacted and went around. The best advice, if it seems fishy, too good to be true, do not click on anything or go directly with their information. Find it yourself, like, either in the phone book, in listings online. Alternate from the information that this source that is contacting you is providing you, and get in contact with who you think you're talking about directly. And they'll, in that case with the apartment for me, ended up being this is a scam. They keep doing it. We've talked with the police. We have no idea how to stop it because they keep using free internet postings and just rapid firing them because, well, it only's got to work once for it to be worth their while. And who knows where they were actually located. So just be careful out there, because it does seem to be accelerating and more and more going on here. So we're due for that next break of the hour here, and a whole lot more conversation. We'll have Maria Kalman talking about, that railroad commissioner race, saying here, I am shocked in this era that a woman would demean herself this way. This is an insult to women who work to present themselves as professionals, utilizing her intelligence as opposed to her physical attributes. Some debate to be had there, I think, particularly on the candidate's part herself, saying that this was a smart use of her own quote-unquote resources here, but more debate to be had and talk about, well, these elections in Texas and a whole lot more. So back after this break with more Talk El Paso. And again, we got those phone lines open. I know we're doing some engaging subjects here, but if you want to chime in, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for an injury accident, I-10 eastbound at Yarborough, and expect delays there. Looks like a backup already started. Joe Battle Boulevard, southbound at Pelicano, an accident reported there. Gateway Boulevard, eastbound at Zaragoza, an accident blocking the on-ramp. And on Loop 375, southbound at Montana, a stalled vehicle is blocking the left shoulder there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Dell Technologies.
Dell's semi-annual sale for business has arrived. Enjoy specials on Dell Talks, monitors, and servers, plus up to 45% off the latest Dell PCs with Windows 11 Pro, and get an easy start to your workday. Call 877-ASK-DELL to speak with a Dell Technologies advisor. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
The podcast, What's Your Problem?, dives deep into new technology and the challenges facing people at the top of their field. On each episode, Jacob Goldstein, former co-host of NPR's Planet Money, speaks with the entrepreneurs and engineers creating innovations in medicine, artificial intelligence, and more.
We didn't have a particular technology. We didn't have a business model. We didn't have a way of making money. It was a great way to start a company. I highly recommend it.
Listen to What's Your Problem on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Anyone can get long COVID, even Rob, age 22.
I got COVID in September of 2020, and a few weeks later, I started to have long-term problems. I used to run 5 to 6 miles a day. Now, when I walk up a flight of stairs, I'm gasping for air. It feels like my brain is clouded and I can't think straight.
Getting vaccinated against COVID-19 is the best way to prevent long COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Research shows that people remember radio ads with a booming voice that emphasizes all the main points. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual Insurance Company customizes your home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
That part is super important.
Here's one with a booming voice.
I'm emphasizing everything.
Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance.
Like a page with every word highlighted.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty. Liberty, 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 liberty.
If you have a small business, Staples has your sign.
Banners for my bakery?
Staples has your sign.
Oh, posters for my new pet store.
Floor decals for a pharmacy. Every day, Staples associates help every kind of small business create bold signs to make big impressions. And now get $10 off custom signs, banners, and posters when you spend $50 or more. This is your sign, so print it big at Staples. Ends 5/28. Visit staplesconnect.com/thisisyoursign for details.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk here. A lot of ways to interact with the show. Of course, we have got the phone line that open right now, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Talking a lot about situations affecting us here in the borderland, the increasing scams. I mean, we've got both some national ones, some statewide ones, some local ones, so just coming at us from all levels. The fun that is here. Just stay on your toes. If it looks weird, probably is. And, do your due diligence here is the best I can say. RJ with a good bit of advice here saying that, got a scam a couple of weeks ago. Do not click on the link, everybody, and conform with your bank is right here. Again, if it's telling you need to go through this link specifically, almost guaranteed don't do it. If anytime in any case, be it on the phone, be it in email, be it in any format, someone saying, oh, you need to give us this info now, and I didn't ask for them to initiate this conversation here, or I didn't initiate it myself, just alarm bells go off here. It has caused me trouble sometimes, but better safe than sorry here. Was dealing with at least one government agency like a related to my student loans, I want to say, and they called up saying, okay, sir, can you confirm your social security number? And I was like, the heck? What? Yeah, you're just going to call up out of the blue, say that you're with someone, and then ask for my very detailed personal information. We ended up having a long conversation with the supervisor. I called them back directly. We dealt with it. But again, better safe than sorry in a lot of these ways. Here, Calvin Williams saying, gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today, among other things. I mean, just be careful out of here, because otherwise you may not even have the cash for a hamburger, among other things. But let's get to those phone lines here. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876. 544 KTSM. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Jerry. Hey, Andrew. One of the people that fell for that scam was John Podesta. Worked for the Democratic National Convention on the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Yeah, I do recall that.
There's another thing that's going on. You ever hear of doconomy? DOCONOMY? It's a new credit card that they're going to put out, and they're working with MasterCard, and it's a carbon credit card that tracks the user and can block their spending. So we're being scammed in another way with this ESG. The federal government not using companies to start a fascist system in the United States, forcing people to go with things like environmental things and governmental things and social compliance. So we're going to be scammed on this. We're not careful.
I mean, that almost, beyond the other implications you're talking about here, this almost just smacks of greenwashing. I mean, the whole concept that, the marketing out there that, we are totally green, carbon neutral in this case. There was actually, I may refer to adult cartoons too much, but King of the Hill had a great episode about this years back about, slapping on the bumper sticker on the back of a giant SUV saying that, it's a green machine, I buy carbon offsets, and come to see that, the actual follow through on that was non-existence because it was a Dale Gribble plot. Not to get too far into that, but still, that's the one lives with me whenever I hear about people saying, oh no, we're totally carbon neutral, or can help you be there without you having to do anything besides give us money. That just, speaking of alarm bells, that seriously causes me concern about, what are you actually doing?
Yes, it does, and it's our federal government that's pushing this now. So people look out whenever they come out and they want to know your ESG score. So
yeah,
thank you. Have a good day.
Oh no, sure thing. Appreciate the point in the call there. It's important to discuss these things here. Among other things, we want to talk about literal fraud. Some of these, and not exactly necessarily this one, the doconomy you were talking about here, but I think there were other like green dots. I never actually used them, but I think I saw that one. These idea of these prepaid, debit cards that then can be a little bit more useful than gift cards. We're also target of frauds, among other things here. Calvin Williams saying that when it comes to scams, I tell them to mail it to me. Mail fraud is a ... I'll finish the sentence. Felony. I mean, that's how they got, I think that's probably the number 2 thing that's organized crime has been dealt with either tax evasion, because you are supposed to report your illicit income unless you have returned any ill-gotten goods and gains. But doing fraud through the mail, that's a quick trip to serious, there's a phrase I want to use that I can't, federal jail. RJ saying the MasterCard carbon tracker is voluntary. It measures your purchases and carbon output, the company, products, etc. Not one I'm terribly familiar with. I'll have to look a little bit more on it. But again, maybe it strikes me, at least on surface levels, maybe a little bit more of a feel-good thing, like, and now you know what you're doing, even if you make no changes about it here. I mean, it's repackaging here. And honestly, if you really want to be worried about carbon, climate change, all of that, there's actually apparently come out a pretty simple solution. Just plant trees. Like, seriously, plant all the trees that you can, because even within air, and not like necessarily El Paso, because we then have to water it and, non-indigenous plants anyway, but that in areas that can support it, just reforestation might be a way out of it. Now, it will take a massive scale to do it, but it also takes work to do it. And that's the difference in when you get to marketing versus action coming along with it. Again, we're taking those calls right now, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Got another call on the line here. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Raul.
Hey there, Raul. What's on your mind?
Hey, Andrew. Well, I want to cheer on President Biden for signing this historic and long overdue anti-lynching bill, which makes lynchings a federal crime. According to a project known as the Lynching in Texas Project, there were more than 700 lynchings in Texas between 1882 and 1968. And that over half of those lynchings were of Mexican Americans and Mexicans. So you ought to have a history show about that, Andrew, sometime. That was back in the day when America wasn't all that great for blacks and Mexican Americans, for example. And how about that largest criminal case in the FBI's history, Trump's January 6th failed coup? You know, there's over 700 insurrectionists who've been arrested. Hundreds of them have been in jail for over a year, and over 200 of them have already pled guilty, and many of them crying they were just doing Trump's bidding and now feel used and abandoned. Isn't that sad?
I mean, the people who ended up going into the Capitol and thinking that this would be fine, I don't have a terrific lot of sympathy for here. A notable case that has come up recently has, of course, been the, I think, current still Otero County Commissioner, if not recently former, I do believe, and founder of Cowboys for Trump, who we actually were able to interview there over at CPAC Dallas last year and get his perspective on all of that here. You can find that over on our Facebook page if you want to do so. I mean, again, I'm not surprised that people have pled guilty for it, because it doesn't matter the rhetoric going with it. If you're going to break into a federal facility, I don't know what you expect. And that's why I think more than a couple people were drawn along. I mean, mob mentality is absolutely a thing that comes with it. But I mean, I don't find a lot of justification for individuals, even if there is. I mean, I'm not totally convinced about some of the top level things that come with it. I think that sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for, and that rhetoric can get out of hand, even if it's something that, like, the idea of the reality can be very different. But speaking about the investigation on it here, of course, we have got some things coming up with the actual, congressional investigation on it here. But I think that they have, outside of the actual criminal proceedings, gone on it, probably not gone about it in the best way. And as has been brought up in the comments over here, looking at how approval ratings are going, there's probably going to be maybe not a landslide, but probably quite the shellacking in these midterms elections, which means that this investigation at that level will probably end by my calculus here. And in that case, it makes me wonder, have they been substantive with what they've come out with it, or has it been more politically motivated? And I think it goes a little bit towards the latter more than the former. Outside, again, talking congressionally, not what the FBI has been working on.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to finish their investigation and their hearings and issue their report before the November elections, and then make their criminal referrals of Trump to the Justice Department, who will pick it up from there and decide whether there has been evidence of a crime versus the law, and then decide whether they open an investigation or not into Trump. But it's clear, Trump told people not to believe what they hear and see, because I saw and hear him plan and incite an insurrection from all the evidence, mountains of evidence they have, over 500 witnesses. The show is going to be the greatest show in TV in American history, I think, bigger than Watergate.
I mean, well, remains to be seen here. Again, I just got to say that the major question that comes to my mind then, if they're going to put on this show about it, how convincing is it going to be to the people who don't already agree with that, obviously, such as yourself here? How persuasive is it going to be, or is it going to be more of we're trying to nail it on, frankly, it seems like it might just be an extension with some specific examples given of essentially the larger response from major media outlets that came during the Trump administration itself here of, well, these are the things that would usually end a campaign, end a presidency. I mean, things have happened more severe for less infractions. I mean, again, I think about Michael Dukakis quite a lot, whose entire political ambitions were essentially kiboshed by a kind of goofy photo shoot involving a tank here, but it keeps not working. So I got to wonder if any lessons have really been learned, if they truly want to go about this and see substantive things happen with it, or if it's going to be essentially a dog and pony show. Because if it's going to be the latter and just trying to hammer it home and why don't you agree with us being kind of the core idea of it, I don't think that's going to be found persuasive by the people who don't already agree with that standpoint, and also just maybe even puts kind of a stigma on any future such efforts by seeing that, well, this is what it was. I mean, anything that comes out of Congress ends up being, as much as it shouldn't be, inherently political, and I'm not convinced that it's going to be done in a way opposite from that here. Well, thank you for the point in the call. We got to take that next break right now. Coming out of the break, we will get to more calls in the line here. If you're wanting to call in, the number to do so at 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. More comments coming in as well. All that and more after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. The KFOX 14 weather team has issued a weather warning from 12 to 9 p.m. tonight for gusty winds and blowing dust. A low pressure system turning to our west apparently will move toward the borderland over the next few hours. The big wind maker arrived today with a high wind warning in effect from 10 to 9 as well for the Sacramento Mountains, the Otero Mesa, Hudspeth, and east northeast El Paso County for wind gusts up to 65 miles per hour. You should tie down any loose patio furniture and get ready for patchy blowing dust during evening commute times. A blowing dust advisory will be in effect from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. for areas all across the borderland. And Texas Democrats will be uniting in El Paso for its party convention in 2024. Downtown has changed since the last party convention in El Paso. Michael Apodaca, the Democratic County Chair-elect for El Paso County, told the El Paso City Council members Tuesday that there were only 2 hotels in the city downtown at that time. Apodaca said 10 to 15,000 attendees are expected in 2024. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Watch for an accident. Joe Battle Boulevard, southbound at Pelicano. Another crash reported Trans Mountain westbound at the I-10 that's slowing traffic. I-10 eastbound at Yarborough. That accident is already cleared. All lanes back open. There's a minor backup. And Gateway Boulevard eastbound at Zaragoza, an accident blocking the on-ramp. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
In Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Andrew Diaz. We remain with our blowing dust advisory as visibilities drop to less than a mile at times, and our wind advisory until 9 p.m. for both advisories in El Paso and in Las Cruces. These winds will begin to subside some as we get into the overnight, but will still remain gusty, and we'll see another windy day Wednesday as well. As for the rain, that should begin to taper off after the evening, and we should see a drier overnight.
This report is sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance, where you only pay for what you need.
Liberty. Nobody should have to pay for one-size-fits-all insurance coverage. Liberty Mutual customizes your car and home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
If you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid, then El Paso Health Plus Medicare Advantage Plan offers great supplemental benefits designed specifically for El Pasoans, such as $3,500 a year in dental benefits, $300 in vision, and a quarterly OTC card with $250 to spend on health and wellness products. Plus, generous benefits for hearing, podiatry, home-delivered meals, and so much more. Plus, our new Get Fit benefit to keep you active and social, as well as our new Healthy Eats program. At El Paso Health Plus, we go the extra mile for our members because this is our home, and our local knowledgeable staff is here to help you get more benefits, more services, more from your health plan. If you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid, call us 833-742-3125 or visit ephmedicare.com. El Paso Health Plus, your local Medicare Advantage plan.
Need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are easy to install and guaranteed to fit. And right now, save 45% off any order. Just use code RADIO at checkout. Blindster.com. This report is sponsored by Blindster.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
It's important to know what's going on, especially around the world.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone?
Do flowers have best friends?
I don't know.
Hey, look. Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. The Facebook, Talk El Paso, is probably considered the main page, as much as we have one anyway, because it's where the Skeptic Squad forms more or less every day, and definitely going full of pace here today. Maria Coleman, RJ, James Ratcliffe, Calvin Williams, Ion Grimm, John Browse a little bit earlier, and more. Michael Robert Tipton also chiming in, and Flaco Jimenez dropping that react here. So a lot of conversation going on there and a lot of discussion here. Just to get to that point from the previous caller here, yeah, I'm glad that lynching has been declared more of a crime than it already was, given that it has, implications and serious history. And there has been lynchings in El Paso, actually. I want to say was down several years ago at this point, down in, the Mission Valley area, particularly around San Elizario, not too far removed from the jail that Billy the Kid broke into, if I'm remembering correctly. And we were trying to look at the provenance of a major tree down there that may have been used for lynchings down there. So absolutely happened in our area, though. Calvin Williams saying, as we popped up here, that is there just nothing else going on here? Again, overdue, there's other commentary to be done about it. I'm not unhappy that it's a law, but priorities, I guess, is also a question right now of just maybe a couple other things going on. His point over there, but a lot more comments coming in this way, including on some of our major topics of the day. RJ saying he's going to be starting a website, 40calfarts.com, C-O-N, to purchase a methane output, to offset methane output for your meat purchases. I'd be surprised if that doesn't exist already. There's certain rules of the internet out there, and I feel like at this point, another corollary to one of the more famous ones should be that if a scam, if a scam exists, there is a website for it, and if the website does not exist, it will be created as soon as the scam is thought of. Anyway, let's get to more of those phone calls on the line here. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. I'm real comment. We'll just get to one comment here real quick. Talking about the January 6th issue. The panel is primarily politically motivated. I don't think that's exactly a secret here, but they're also asking about Capitol Police commonly escorting people into the Capitol. I saw some of the video you were describing there, but then, of course, juxtaposed within some of the scenes inside. I think that's there was a lot of FUBAR situations going on that day. Look up that word for yourself if you want to. But I think outside, they realized that they were in a motivated and seriously unhappy crowd, that they were going to be, it was going to be a bad time. Now, whether or not that was a good tactical decision, you can decide that for yourself here. Calvin Williams, a little bit of a hot take here. If I get a speeding ticket, would be a hate crime because I hate everything. Wish I had that clip right now from The Office of I am the victim of a hate crime. That's not what hate crime is. Well, I hated it. Kind of a similar kind of sentiment there. But let's get to those phone lines, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Just was thinking about Biden's new bill to tax bill that he put on.
Oh, yes.
Okay. He starts out by saying that he wants to take a 21% corporate tax to maybe 28 or 29% more. So that's going to be about 7% more that the corporation has got to put out in order to recover their costs. Plus the 20% extra for the inflationary cost of materials that they've already had and that they've had to put out. So now they're at the 27% more than they expected to pay. Then that gives them a little more money left to give raises for people. And then you've got, chances are they're going to raise interest rates on credit cards and loans. That means that, that's going to hurt the average individual. So we're talking about another then what type of situation. In other words, and there's always a chance that the corporations, if they decide the corporate tax is too high, they go to another country. So
true.
And this is another then what type of a situation. You raise the corporate tax, then what?
I mean, the odds are, just based on life and experience, going to get passed on to the consumer, because that's how these always go. If there is any even statements from a major company saying we're going to eat these costs, guaranteed they're only temporary, because invariably it feels like, I'm sure there's an exception out there, but I'm not fully aware of it, of them quietly increasing costs other way, or again, the skimpflation we've been seeing. I don't know if anyone else has noticed out there already that certain things you're paying the same for, but have gotten smaller. Like I got acquainted with the 7-pound bag of ice the other day, where usually you had to get 10 or 20, but 7 because it's the same price, but you're definitely getting less. So you're still you end up taking the loss in the end, because if you want the same amount, you have to pay more. So it's going to come down to us. I mean, that's fully expected. And a similar kind of thing could be expected with the very similar billionaire minimum tax that is being talked about, which has, frankly, I mean, besides paying more with the corporations, and I mean, that has issues with it, but there are some disturbing implications of future potential use of similar concepts from this billionaire minimum tax to, well, there is no tax that I'm aware of that has stayed exactly within the very narrow bounds it's meant to, because, well, once there's a tax available, it'll be applied in a lot of ways. It does seem to come out on the balance.
Yeah, a lot of people that have lots of money are going to leave the United States, go someplace else. They don't need to pay that tax. So, and that's been tried in Europe before. The wealth tax. And they took it down real quick because it was hurting them.
Yep, so, not surprised here.
Again, then what? Always think about what is the consequences of these actions that these people are making. I mean, I don't see anybody from the general public yelling and screaming that they're not paying enough money for their products. You know what I'm saying? They want to pay more. And that's what this government is giving us. They're giving it to where people can't pay more because they don't have the money. And the government doesn't have the money. Again, it's currency.
I mean, the inflationary forces were on here when we've gone. I mean, just even looking at the Federal Reserve statements come out. It's temporary inflation. Well, it's transitory inflation. Well, we're not going to use transitory anymore because they've given the wrong impression to now. Well, we're raising interest rates probably 6 times this year, maybe on order of up to about 2%, but we'll see what they do. I mean, it's kind of one of those weird situations when it comes to fiscal policy, which a lot of this impacts, and then, of course, everything downstream from that, is the power is only really that much available the less you use it. So we'll see how we feel by the end of this year, because, among other things, I believe I've heard and looked into a little bit, that not every recession is caused by inflation, but all recessions have been started by there being this increase in these costs and these interest rates. So I think we're Kevin Williams using a pretty good acronym here, BOHICA, BOHICA, that kind of feels appropriate in this case.
Yeah, and one of the other things yesterday, Raul was talking about all the wonderful things government was, making it possible to have high raises for their employees. They were able to give out retirement, everything. They have the greatest retirement things, investments and things. But he failed to mention one thing. In the non-government world, we don't have an unlimited piggy bank.
Very true.
These people have to, they have to pay money out of the profits of their corporations, or out of their businesses, things like that. So, that's one thing that by government participating in the employment area, they push up the prices for other industries, and they go out of business. So
Yeah, but there's a phrase out there comes to mind, monopolistic competition here, that sure, you can try to compete with them, but with their ability in other areas to essentially set the terms here when there's such a control on a market by one entity that even if you are competing with them, you essentially have to play by their rules, and that kind of comes to mind in this situation as well.
Yeah, push everybody else out of business, so everybody will be dependent again on government. That is where this is all going. People have to wake up. They've got to they've got to make sure: do you want capitalism or do you want this combination socialism, fascism that they're handing us?
I mean, I think people definitely need to be paying attention. You'll never get any argument from me on that point here. So thank you for the point in the call. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. I think we got time to squeeze in one more quick one before we hit that next break here. Again, we take calls throughout this point, and then we'll finish out the show next segment here. We do have one more call on the line here. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Andrew.
Hey there, Andrew. What's on your mind?
Yes, another thing that is affecting El Paso, not only in the job market, but is brain drain. You know, a lot of these people are educated, and they have to go elsewhere to find high-paying jobs within their field.
That is true, and that's been an increasing issue. I mean, there have been some efforts kind of on a piecemeal scale that I've been encouraged by. The Coldwell Collective comes to mind. Some of these business incubators and tech incubators that have started popping up in town, but that's a very, still, I feel like at this point, nascent effort. And to really get to being able to compete with the other areas that have been doing this for decades, we got a ways to go.
Yes, just to give people an idea of the disparities in job opportunities, I was looking on the website for the Travis County government today. Andrew, do you know that there is over 800 job openings just in Travis County government alone?
Like in the government itself?
Yes, sir.
I did not.
Yes, Travis County government itself, you know, or I should say county of Travis, the county of Travis, Texas, you know, Texas.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes. Anyway, yes, that is interesting. While in El Paso, I think I only counted like maybe 32 openings today.
Okay, so a little bit of brain drain, got to go out of town to find the better positions, but also just more demand from other places, even though Travis County, having visited there and just dealt with the traffic visiting, kind of like like maybe not even a nice place to visit, okay place to visit, but I couldn't even imagine living there without a helicopter or a flying car.
True. Oh, and I must respond to that Raul character. Do you know when the first anti-lynching bill was formed, or rather proposed in Congress?
I don't know the exact date, but I know it's been a decades-long effort at this point.
1918, by a U.S. congressman from Missouri called Leonidas Dyer. Okay?
Great name.
He introduced it. Guess who opposed it and defeated it by the filibuster?
I think I know where you're getting at here, because at that point in time would have been the Democrats, I'm assuming you're getting at?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. By an overwhelming margin. Yes, the Democrats. So just a little bit of trivia, and just to prove, hey, some of us morons can read out there. You know what I'm referring to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely here. And yeah, the Dixiecrats, infamous and famous, and should be for all the things done there. I mean, history is an important, it informs our current reality, particularly when we're talking about such long-term ongoing issues at this. And we ignore it at our peril, particularly with current situations. I mean, again, history doesn't necessarily totally repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes, is a phrase I'll probably say till the day I die.
Roger that. Anyway, you have a good evening.
Oh, you too. Appreciate the point in the call there. So we got to end up taking that last break of the hour here. Come back, finish out. We got at least £1 250 call here and again. And just since there's been a little bit of controversy on that, just make that perfectly clear. You want to call in, leave your message, you're more than welcome to. We just ask that you present yourself as yourself and leave the performance art for the street side performers there. We'll be back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for an accident. Gateway Boulevard eastbound at Zaragoza. It is blocking the on-ramp. Loop 375 southbound at Montana. Stalled vehicle blocking the left shoulder. Watch for a crash on the Trans Mountain westbound at Desert Boulevard I-10. And police are responding to an accident. Wrestler at Belvedere. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Are you a safe driver? Are you looking to save money? With DriveWise from Allstate, the safer you drive, the more you can save. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. But I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car at work or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-510-2204. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS, and there is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and Yelp, and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today and call 800-510-2204. Again, that's 800-510-2204. Or you can visit us online at tra.com.
We're planning a trip to Spain later this year.
But our Spanish
It's pretty bad. So we're using Babbel.
Babbel's conversation-based method teaches you real-life words and phrases. And with Babbel's interactive, bite-sized lessons, you'll remember what you learned.
There's no easier way to learn another language.
Ahora hablamos español.
He just said now he speaks Spanish.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free. Just go to Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
Whether you're in business or in school, Staples has your tech.
How about wireless headphones so I'm not tied to my desk?
Staples has your tech.
A tablet for when I travel by train?
The latest laptop for a soon-to-be summa cum laude?
Staples offers tech solutions and accessories for learners, small business, and remote workers too. From the latest laptops to networking solutions. And now, Apple AirPods Pro are just $199. You save $50. The latest tech solutions are at Staples, the working and learning store. Ends 4/2. Limit 2 while supplies last.
Text and whatever. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Some of the things we're working on you for upcoming shows and issues we're discussing here, including some more discussion about some of the business environment in town. We didn't even talk today about the Democrat Party convention coming to town in 2024. That kind of goes into a couple different ways of subjects we talk about here, both the political side that we always end up in, regardless of whether we want to or not, but also downtown revitalization, weirdly enough, and just the shifting situation down there. So we'll make into that and a few things more, but more interviews, more discussions, and more things coming up about the situations affecting us here in El Paso. So stay tuned for more details, including some nonprofit efforts dealing with issues we've talked about, including, food supply, those kind of things here. But as we're rounding the end of our program here, if you're wanting to leave us a message before our next show here, or couldn't just quite make it on the line, another way you can leave us some note, or at least voice message, if that's the way you prefer to do so, is by using your cell phone to call pound 250. Dial that, it'll ring, and you can then say Talk El Paso when prompted and leave us your own message along the lines of, well, this.
This is for Fair Frankie. I want to share with all of you out there some most distressing, insane, ignorant, criminally active news. Now, it's been found that over 7 hours of White House telephone log, phone calls, all of a sudden disappeared. So what is this? Richard Tricky Dicky Nixon way back in Watergate days with that secretary of his, that 18-minute gap? What is this thing? 7 hours? What's that, steroids? On steroids, 18-minute gap on steroids? And he doesn't know what a burner phone is? Give me a break. He knows exactly what a burner phone is, probably even owns stock. Your continued support of this moron with that yellow cotton candy on top of his head It's unbelievable to me. Sometimes I wonder, how can you go through life being called a thinking human when you support this kind of nonsense? Or anybody like him, the rest of his crowd, the whole criminal comported nonsense. You people should be ashamed of yourselves. Get a life.
Again, you want to leave your own message, pound 250, and then say the keyword Talk El Paso. RJ wanted me to clarify there, the state convention coming to El Paso in 2024. There was a little bit of note on that from our news partners, but we'll have to get into that tomorrow here. Just ran out of time for this one, but it's in the planning stages and some interesting implications there. But again, to the call there, sure, I have been vociferously in favor of investigations, full, complete, and exhaustive investigations, and most of these contentious issues we come up with, whether it be the election, whether it be January 6th, or any of the related issues. But again, I have serious concerns about the way it's being essentially prosecuted by the party in power right now in D.C. is going to leave it as a dog and pony show and not something that can be substantively pointed at to, except maybe within the history books as, well, this was uncovered, but it ultimately failed to be done. That's the issue I think we're going to run into here. So, and also just as much as we talk about the Schadenfreude effect of it here, I mean, really, let's think about discourse for just a spare second at the end of the program here. Sure, you may disagree with people, and sure, you may have serious issues with their line of thinking, but I got to wonder, what do you think is the outcome going to be there? Because the people that are going to agree with you are going to keep agreeing with you, and the people that you are then saying, thank you, okay, I've never met anyone that's like, you know what, sir, thank you. That you calling me and questioning my intelligence has made me totally reevaluate all my political positions, and I am now fully prepared to embrace and would like to subscribe to your newsletter. Like, come on. You want to talk about come on? Let's start there. Anyway, we'll do have to get it in tomorrow here on Talk El Paso, again, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. In the meantime, I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. See you all tomorrow. Have a good one.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for an accident Gateway Boulevard eastbound at Zaragoza. It is blocking the on-ramp. Loop 375 southbound at Montana. Stalled vehicle blocking the left shoulder. Watch for a crash on the Trans Mountain westbound at Desert Boulevard I-10. And police are responding to an accident. Wrestler at Belvedere. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier